Yesterday was International Women's Day. And to celebrate International Women's Day, the Biden administration granted a biological male the International Women of Courage Award. This has resulted in many people being quite upset and complaining. And I only just got to say, I understand the cultural issue they're complaining about. I just would like to add, does anyone really care about the International Women of Courage Award? Can you name one recipient of this award? Okay, we get it. No one really cares about the award, but there is still an issue if we are diverting cultural iconography, merit awards, etc., to biological males when it's supposed to be for women. I like this new thing that James Lindsay is doing. Have you seen it? Women Plus? Women Plus. I love that. It's absolutely brilliant. It's not about, what does he say? Trans women are women plus. And it's just good. All right, here's the story from the Post-Millennial. They say, marking International Women's Day on Wednesday, a trans-identified male was awarded an International Women of Courage Award during the 17th Annual Secretary of State's International Women of Courage Awards ceremony. 17. Introducing Alba Rueda of Argentina to the crowd, the presenter said Rueda is a transgender woman who was kicked out of classrooms, barred for sitting for exams, refused job opportunities, subjected to violence, and rejected by her family. But in the face of these challenges, she worked to end violence and discrimination against the LGBTQ plus community in Argentina. You see the plus? It's women plus. That's what it is. I love the plus. The plus is fantastic. You see? Rueda was handed the presented with. Come on, Post-Millennial, copy editor. Jill Biden presented the award with Secretary of State Antony Blinken. According to the Secretary of State's International Women of Courage Award website, Rueda is Argentina's special envoy for sexual orientation and gender identity in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, International Trade and Worship, and was the first Argentine undersecretary for diversity policies in the newly created Ministry for Women, Gender, and Diversity. Wow. Sounds like insane cult ideology. It's a cult. It is a cult. Seriously? The government's special envoy for sexual orientation? Right this way, sir. Imagine going to a border. You're like entering the country and they're like, can I see your passport? And then you pull out your passport and they're like, okay, and who do you prefer to have sex with? Oh, let me write that down. And okay, and what do you think you are? Oh, a giraffe. Oh, how about that? That's where we're going, I guess. Mr. Rueda was the driving force behind Argentina's executive order on the transgender labor quota in the public sector. What? Everybody's like freaking out because they're like, how dare the Biden administration give a man a woman's award? And I'm kind of like, you didn't even know the award existed, but I'm freaking out that Argentina has a government envoy and a transgender labor quota. I mean, you know what's really funny? Let's go back to the notepad joke again. I want you all to imagine this scenario. Okay, sir, welcome to the job interview for petroleum engineer. And sir, which genitals do you have? Very interesting. You have those. I did not expect that. And who do you prefer to have sex with? Really? Didn't expect that either. So we get this story that's going on for a long time about bathrooms. And they say, like, no trans person wants to be stopped and made to go in the wrong bathroom or whatever. No one should be allowed to question a trans person's gender identity. Because that's the idea, right? The idea was with the bathrooms, a trans woman will be walking to a women's bathroom and they'll say, hey, hold on there, show us your junk. And they were like, that's absurd. Or in like women's sports, as if a trans person or any person would have to show their genitals to prove who they are. They make you get testosterone tests. But think about this. If there's a transgender labor quota act, that means employers are required to ask you about your junk. Sure, I guess. And this forces trans people to out themselves. If you're a passing trans person, I'm sure the last thing you want to do is go to your boss and be like, I have a confession to make. Yes, here's the truth. That's like probably not a good thing. Rueda, the statement continued, actively campaigned to change the name of the Nationals Women Conference to the Plurinational Conference of Women and Lesbian, Cross-Dresser, Transgender, Bisexual, Intersex, and Non-Binary Persons to include diverse, dissident, and racialized identities. What? Oh, man. Oh, boy. Hey, you know what? That's Argentina for you, I guess. Women presented with the award include Senator Datuk Ras Abida Radzi of Malaysia, who has committed her life to fighting for the rights of persons with disabilities in Malaysia and suffering a spinal injury in a car accident and an assault. Brigadier General Boler Ganbold of Mongolia, who became the country's first female general in the Mongolian armed forces. And let me just stop right there and say, those things sound very noble, honorable, and tremendous respect. And Miatza Mohammed of Ethiopia, a veteran journalist and founder of Roha TV, who has covered survivors of gender-based violence in the country during the northern conflict, among other recipients. I do think it's kind of funny that the Roha TV journalist is probably very much at odds with this Argentinian individual. Imagine if they were like, you're in a nation where they're mutilating women, like biological females, right? And then all of a sudden, everyone's like, no. That people are people. A person is a person. Women are not being targeted. People with vaginas are being targeted. Uh-oh. We shouldn't say that because that's offensive to trans women. There's no line, you know. This is where we're going. So the Daily Mail actually compiled some tweets, I guess, because this is funny. Sarah Huckabee Sanders says it's International Women's Day, a good time to remember that Democrats can't even tell you what a woman is. Fair point. When you ask them, they get mad and they refuse to answer. Dana Lash says, nice of FLOTUS to encourage the diminishment of women on International Women's Day. Erasing women is abusive. Carolyn Levitt, why are Democrats working overtime to push the trans agenda? Disgraceful. Honest question. Are you okay with this? You see, this is the thing. I don't care about some garbage award from a garbage institution that is the Biden administration. I really don't care about it. It means nothing to me. I didn't know the award existed. I still don't care that it does exist. I think the bigger issue is you've got this cult that is destroying people's lives. You've got this cult. And it's spreading. I want to show you a tweet I put out. And, Twitter does like a little birthday thing for me, a little birthday thing. Let me refresh that. So look at the balloons. Whee! It's my birthday. If you want to get me a present, you can become a member at timcast.com. Click join us, become a member, and help support our work. But let me scroll down here. I want to show you the balloons, so I'm just scrolling through my, here we go. I have this Twitter poll I did. I wrote, if you have a mental disorder or illness, should you be allowed to carry guns? And 70%, rounding up, said no. And I think it's interesting because in a blanket statement, most people say no. Most people follow me are probably 2A gun nuts. Now, look, I got to be honest. I'm more towards you should. Sorry. But it depends. As many people pointed out on the severity. If you can't discern between up or down, yeah, we're not going to put a gun in your hands. Okay? If you do not have the capacity to be an independent, sane adult, then you are to be in the care of somebody else. That's the reason I pointed this out. The liberals like to point out that if you're mentally ill or suffering from some mental disorder, you should not be eligible to bear arms. But that would mean, according to the DSM-5, those suffering from gender dysphoria would be ineligible to keep and bear arms. I absolutely disagree with that. However, Nuance Bro responds saying, what's the mental illness? Are you a danger to yourselves and others? And I said, would you consider wanting to amputate healthy body parts as being a danger to yourself? And he said, where's the Nuance Bro response? Did he delete it? Here we go. He said, you're talking about the demographic with the insanely high attempted suicide rate. I usually say if someone is considered too dangerous to own or carry a gun, they're probably too dangerous to be out in public anyway, so I'd rather opt for involuntary detention and imprisonment instead. Which brings me to the main point. For an individual, they say, actually, let me show you this story. Not that one. Here we go. Notorious trans activist brags about supplying illegal cross-sex hormones to trans youth, calling it life-saving medicine. Life-saving medications that guarantee one's safety. That's what they called it. Eli Ehrlich, life-saving. If a child is threatening harm to themselves, do we amputate body parts? If a child is cutting, because teen girls cut all the time, do we then say, okay, we'll cut deeper for you? No, we stop them from hurting themselves. We don't assume that if someone is anorexic and suffering from body dysmorphia, that you can affirm that dysmorphia. Many anorexic people recover from this and begin eating. Many people who are morbidly obese recover from their eating disorder and stop eating. But why this one? I don't know. My point is this. You're not saving anybody by giving them surgeries and medically altering their body. It's the only instance where we do it for any kind of dysmorphia. I think the issue is quite simple, and if someone is threatening to end their own life, we simply 5150 them. It means they get temporarily detained a couple days to make sure they don't end their own life. But hey, Biden administration, you can do whatever you want. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 6 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.